You know that thing you chew on without even thinking about it? Chewing gum? Or what if I told you one of the world's most popular treats was invented completely by mistake? And not just once, but twice. Today, we're going to unwrap the surprisingly sticky story of how a series of happy accidents created the chewing gum we all know and love. So, what do car tires and bubble gum have in common? It sounds like the setup to a really bad joke, right? But believe it or not, the answer is the key to this whole unbelievable story of accidental invention. All right, so our story kicks off with a truly sticky situation. We've got an exiled dictator, a hopeful inventor, and a shared dream that was, well, destined to end in a pretty spectacular failure.
Just get a load of this unlikely duo. On one side, you have Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna. Yeah, the famous exiled Mexican general. And on the other, Thomas Adams, a New York inventor. I mean, these guys could not have been more different, right? But somehow, they hatched this wild plan to go into business together.
So, what was the glue holding this bizarre partnership together? It was this stuff called chicle, which is basically a natural sap from these sapodilla trees down in the Yucatan Peninsula. See, when Santa Anna was exiled, he brought a whole ton of it with him to New York, and he was absolutely convinced this was his ticket back to the big time. So, what was their million-dollar idea? Making candy? Not even close. Their grand plan, if you can believe it, was to turn this tree sap into a cheap substitute for rubber. Yeah, they wanted to make affordable car tires and completely revolutionize the entire automobile industry. A pretty huge goal for a lump of gooey sap, right? And after all that work, after all that dreaming, the result was a complete, sticky, gooey failure. I mean, just a total flop. No matter what they tried, that chicle just would not turn into a durable, bouncy tire. The dream was officially dead. But this is where things get really interesting, because it's right here, in this failure, that we get our first happy accident. This is the moment that a failed industrial product accidentally ends up sparking a brand new global habit. So how did they possibly turn this disaster around? Well, it all came down to a pretty simple pivot. You see, as they were working on these failed experiments, they kind of just started casually chewing on the raw chicle, which, by the way, is something people had done for centuries in its native Yucatan. And that's when the light bulb went off. You know, forget trying to make it into tires. What if they just sold it as something to chew? And that's exactly what they did. They took their failed rubber substitute, cut it up into little unflavored pieces, and sold it in a local drugstore as Adams New York chewing gum. And just like that, from the ashes of a failed tire experiment, the entire modern chewing gum industry was born. How crazy is that? But wait, this story doesn't end there. Because that original gum, let's be honest, was probably pretty plain. It was going to take another happy accident, this one fueled by pure, simple boredom, to create the colorful, bubbly icon we know today. Okay, so fast forward a few years, we're at the Fleer Chewing Gum Company now, and our next hero isn't an inventor or a general. No, he's an accountant named Walter Deemer. And the story goes that one afternoon, he was just incredibly, mind-numbingly bored with his numbers. And I absolutely love this next part. Instead of just, taking a normal lunch break, Dahmer decides to sneak into the company's chemistry lab just to amuse himself. He wasn't trying to invent anything specific. He was literally just mixing random compounds for the pure fun of it. Can you imagine? And somehow, through this completely unplanned, totally unscientific messing around, he stumbles onto something extraordinary. By complete accident, he creates a gum formula that was way less sticky than regular gum and had this amazing new property. It was incredibly stretchy. So, this new stretchy formula had one killer feature. For the very first time, you could do something completely new with your gum. That's right, you could blow bubbles. This wasn't just a new product, it was an absolute game changer. And here's the final accidental cherry on top of this story. The only food coloring Deemer had lying around that day was pink. And that is the simple, kind of random reason why to this very day, the most iconic color for bubblegum is that bright pink. Yet another happy accident. So there you have it. From a failed car tire to a bored accountant, the story of chewing gum is just this incredible testament to serendipity. It just goes to show you that sometimes the greatest innovations, they aren't meticulously planned out in a boardroom. They're found in the messy, sticky, gooey failures.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's the next great invention hiding out in a failed experiment right now, just waiting for its own happy accident?